my hope is that if you have no knowledge of Halo, it's a great, fun show to watch. And if you are a deep aficionado of Halo, there's plenty of rewards for you as well, because we did it with you in mind.
It's fiction.
I should be in a fantastic mood nowadays. Professional wrestling in North America is insanely hot right now.
Because I made it that way, yeah!
Like the hottest it's been in 2 decades.
Yeah! Yeah!
Yes. Aliens, extraterrestrials, are all but confirmed to exist.
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
Yes! And a video game that has a very, very special place in my heart has its own TV show? What? Let's go on this journey of pain together. I've been playing Halo for a long time. Started off playing that bad boy right there. Would come home from school, play a little bit, you know. Obviously, it took me a while because back in the day, I sucked at video games. I still suck at video games, just so we're clear on that. Played 1, then eventually 2. Once I got a little older and got a friend to play past level 6 with. If you know, you know. Okay. But eventually I got to 2, 3, 4, Reach, ODST, not in that order necessarily, but you get the idea. There's one I might be forgetting. Nah. I didn't really play the Wars series too much. I had some friends that played them, but I myself wasn't really a big strategy game guy. The reason I bring up all of this, any of this really, is because I picked the wrong franchise. If we're aiming for satisfaction now, yeah, I picked the wrong franchise. Like, the one little week that I spent watching Fallout, I was actually like, why haven't I found this series sooner? Because it would be that much more of a catharsis to see it done well on the screen. Unlike... And I was going to try to put off doing the Fallout comparison in this video because I wanted to talk about Fallout on its own. But it's kind of hard because we have The Last of Us. And I haven't played The Last of Us and I haven't seen The Last of Us. From what I've heard, it's a pretty good representation of the game. And that was a weird bar to set, I guess, because it was like, yay, we got a video game TV show that's doing well. But when we have Halo, it's so much of a genre jump to go from horror to just straight up action sci-fi. So to have Fallout right next to it, almost as a direct comparison, is kind of perfect. And I guess I kind of have to break down the story just so I have a chance to talk about the things that I want to talk about. I was debating against it because, Jesus Christ, if you were in need of Ambien, pop this series on. Season 1 at least. That's right, I haven't seen Season 2 yet. I saw Season 1. I decided I was going to get this one out and then torture myself with some more. With the odd hope that maybe, just maybe, they improved? I'm not psychic, so convenient editing here. So, the plot. Episode 1. We start on the planet Madrigal with what looks like a mining colony, and it appears that the people of Madrigal are in a little skirmish of their own, and I can't remember exactly what the political differences is. Spoiler, it's because it doesn't matter. But the important part for now is that they are assaulted by the Covenant, and the Spartans rush in to save the day. Well, they save like one person. To be fair, I don't know if their mission was exactly eliminate the Covenant as it was save people. But if we're going for like the whole hero aesthetic, this is when we are introduced to the Master Chief and his squad. Riz, Vanek, and Kai. Like I said, Spartans show up, kick some ass, save the day. Kinda. And you know what? That was a pretty solid intro. Some action, a little bit of story, a little bit of some character moments. I'm excited for this ride. Let's get into that intro theme. That sounds like something that didn't quite make the cut in a Marvel studio. That sounds like some filler on like an NCIS like episode. Not every intro needs to be amazing. I mean, they're not all going to be the Game of Thrones intro. They're not all going to be the minimalistic but totally full of vibes sound that Breaking Bad gives you when you first turn it on. But this, you had Marty O'Donnell, Steve Vai, insanely talented musicians. To be fair, they do use the theme, the iconic theme, the guitar version later in the show, and probably a few other times I didn't notice because, they didn't use it as the theme. You had so many options, and you chose this, is my main point. I gotta keep moving. If I stay on the theme, I can't. So the Covenant are here looking for an artifact. The UNMC are here looking for the Covenant. The UNMC find said artifact and decide, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and peace out. Oh, wait, we got a survivor. So naturally, the UNMC decides that the proper course of action is to kill the survivor. I know she just wants us to help them with independence for her planet, and that, we could use some assistance fighting this intergalactic threat that's wiping the floor with us. And I also know that, she's like in the middle of like a rebel skirmish, but also, intergalactic threat. So naturally, both sides just don't want to work together at all because that's the rational choice. So the Chief's like, I ain't having that. I'm the main character here. I'm supposed to make the decisions where people go, yeah, that's my guy, and pulls a Randy Marsh. Player. I also neglected to mention, just because it really isn't important to the story, but Chief makes a big deal about his helmet, and he says, I need it. And the control room that's watching all this take place also makes a big deal. Like, nobody ever talks about the helmet like that again. So I don't know if that was just a direct shot at the fan base in episode 1. The people you want to keep watching your show. You're going to be a dick to them? Interesting move. I mean, I'm just saying. Episode 2, we get a flashback showing us a character that we have never seen before, which means, hey, we're about to get introduced to another character. I've watched the TV show before. So basically the point of this episode is for the Master Chief to bring back Kwan Ha. Have I mentioned her name is Kwan Ha, by the way? She doesn't matter. I just want to be clear, I'm not saying that as like a... It's just a straight up mean comment. She does, the actor does matter. The individual person does matter. Just for the purposes of this stupid story, you don't need to put a pin in her name or anything. I'm just telling you that for your own sake. So he brings Kwan Ha to Soren, his old buddy from the UNMC training days, the Spartan training days, and he says, hey, can you keep this lady for me? I know that like the last interaction we had was basically me f***ing you over royally in an attempt to get you killed for all intents and purposes. But I gave you a 5-minute start, so harbor a fugitive for me? He also says, hey, this artifact you've been talking about, this artifact you've got, I got a guy who was a Covenant prisoner and who knows some stuff. You guys should go see him. And this is where Reth, the prisoner, tells the Chief and Soren and Kwan that Halo is a weapon and that it can be used to wipe out all life in a galaxy. This brings me to one of my big problems. This whole season is just blowing through story beats from the original series like nobody's business. I'm probably not going to remember every single reveal, but there are some pretty big reveals that are not only big, but in the games, like, were built up to, were a rug pull in a lot of cases. Substantial plot points. But in this show, it's just like they're just throwing things out there left and right to be like, I don't know if they're trying to just satisfy the fans of the game.
Kai is my favorite Covenant weapon.
As well, at the same time, making things interesting for the casual audience. But if they keep this up, they ain't gonna have no wad left to blow. And let me tell you, the Halo games, they're all about blowing wads. Big cinematic, gigantic, huge explosion, summer blockbuster wads. I'm gonna stop saying wads now.
Meanwhile,
let's take our experimental AI that has the ability to control the user's body and give it to the guy who can punch holes in concrete and also has been AWOL for an extended period of time. We're supposed to root for these people. Episode 3! We have another flashback with a character we haven't been introduced to yet. I've seen TV shows before. So naturally, we were introduced to another character who, shocker, will not become important beyond this season. This is McKee. The show likes to pretend she's a valuable character to this story. And to me, she's only really important for one reason, and that's because the actor's name is
Charlie Murphy!
Which means every time she popped on screen, the only thing I could help but think of was
Charlie Murphy!
And let me tell you, when you're down in the trenches, when you're deep down, when you're in the mud, a little shimmer of hope can go a long way. I take that back immediately, because she's also important for one other gigantic reason. She is a tactical mastermind. You can throw out whatever kind of tactics you want when you're on the battlefield, when you're in the space field, but nothing compares to the old wrong number gag. I'm not you. She overtakes an entire military ship. Basically, she takes over the equivalent of an aircraft carrier by pretending to be somebody she's not. I guess I never thought of that one. And one of the things that irks me about this the most, I think, and the most, is the way some writers will just make collective groups, sometimes just individual peoples, but in this instance, collective groups of people just so stupid just because they want to get to the end game, which is what they think is a really cool scene. She walks into the bay and everybody's like, oh, everybody keep your guns loaded, keep your guns on her. Oh no, aliens, who could have seen this coming? It ruins all tension for me. It ruins all excitement. It ruins all caring when I'm essentially watching a bunch of lab rats in a glass box and somebody just drops a grenade in it. Like, why should I care? There was no elaborate maneuver to get her way on there. It's not like I was watching this cool character pull off these sneaky little tactical moves that nobody would have saw coming. No, she just called him. And it worked! It worked swimmingly! Oh yeah, and by the way, all that is happening. Cortana helps Chief figure out where his hormonal chip is and takes that out. Immediately something happened, guys. Immediately something happened.
Hey, put your clothes on, man. Other people will come here and see you nude. You like that? What kind of guy that you are?
Episode 4. I should have mentioned in the last one, in 3, that Cortana also helped Chief figure out what planet he was from. And obviously that's got some importance to the story, but the only reason it was important for me is because the way the planet was spelled, if you chop the first word in half, well, the name of the planet in half, it says Arid Anus. I just thought that was funny. Miranda gets some help of Silver Team to study some artifacts and also study some Covenant language, which will be important later. Cortana tells Chief he was adopted, and mystic wizards in the desert. What has happened? Episode 5. More flashbacks. Chief is still adopted. Covenant pew pew. McKee beams down. Somebody smother me. Episode 6. This one actually starts off kind of promising. After I've been watching somebody who in my childhood, every time I saw them on screen, was like kicking ass and taking names, basically sulk and be depressed for the better part of 5 episodes. Seeing it start off with him just, enough of the crap and what's going on, tell me, somebody give me some answers, kind of refreshing. Except then we come crashing back down to reality when you realize this episode is basically just here to establish that McKee is infiltrating the base on Reach and is trying to get the artifact. And do you remember what I said about writers just making everybody stupid? Miranda is literally sitting there having a conversation with McKee after this gigantic battle and explains to her that, oh, the ship that you just beamed down out of, a human, that Covenant ship that you just beamed down out of, it looks similar to the one that just eradicated an entire crew somehow. They were just missing. They were gone. We didn't know what happened. It was so strange. Ow. Getting too angry. Cause physical damage. And then she gives this, supervillain Hans Gruber, who would listen to this woman talk and not immediately think, Again, it's really hard for me to give a shit about characters that would not make it through daycare. Hey, at least we get a vision of Halo. The Vision. Episode 6. The very end. Yeah! Episode 7. Legit the best thing going for the show. You want your endorsement, Paramount? There it is. It's just a well-structured episode. All these episodes before have just been, either insanely boring, just people talking to each other. Which, by the way, Vince Gilligan did a really good job at making a show just basically mainly about people talking to each other. The most exciting thing you've ever seen. We cut to this crap, and it's like I'm going back to 1999 with the Star Wars prequels, and it's just people walking down a hallway in CG, just repeating lines to each other. Anyway, it's a very well-structured episode. It gives you some characters that you've been established with. It gives you goals that have been established with said characters. By the way, Quan Ha has been trying to get Soren to take her back to Magical. Probably should have mentioned that. The entire episode is basically just her getting back at Venchner, the guy who was butting heads with her dad, who was the lead of the Resistance, and they overcome the odds, unsurmountable odds at that. Do some really cool action maneuvers and some action movie stunts, and save the day, and have a nice little conversation about how, hey, you know what? After all this, we both can relate to each other a little bit better. That was a nice little struggle we went through together. Wasn't that a cool little story? And then it ends, and you realize you could have skipped this whole episode, and the season doesn't change. I'm not even joking. In my notes, everything else I have, at least somewhat of a little bit of a foundation of writing. Episode 7. Skip. As much as I like it, if you're watching this show to understand just the story of the show and what might be happening going forward, I don't see any real way that Soren or Quan Ha are going to be tied back into the story unless Chief just goes back to go get her. But what reason would he have for doing that? Good episode. Doesn't matter. Episode 8. I don't know about you, but when I have a war prisoner, the first place I think of is either A, an asteroid in the outer reaches of space, or a nice stroll through the city. By the way, Reach City, New Alexandria. There's a literal level named after it in this game, which you would probably know if you ever bothered to. And so they're having a moment, I guess, and she decides to explain the Great Journey, which I've already mentioned this about blowing plot points, but again, the Master Chief being a reclaimer and any kind of humans being reclaimers for these are you can't even throw that out yet. We don't even know what a reclaimer is. You're watching this right now. If you have never played Halo before, a lot of people that watch this show, and you wanted to know what a reclaimer was, you don't even know what Halo does yet. I take that back. You know it's a weapon because this show can't seem to keep its pants. I'm sorry. Too much stuff too soon is my point. And by the way, if you haven't noticed yet, with the beginning of this episode, some alone time. Sun's out, birds are chirping. A nice little breeze. Everybody's smiling. Oh, we're having some nice little Oh no. Oh no, don't do it. Don't. I see it. I recognize. The nodes in my brain recognize the patterns. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. And if there was anybody else, anybody at all, that still had a little bit of faith left for this character in this show, he's whipped now. That's the story we're telling. There's so many character stories you could tell in Halo, but no, we have to get to know the Chief. We have to go through his first breakup with him. And I this is something I normally wouldn't even care about because it's a trope. It's something you see in movies, like the two characters that are fish out of water. Oh, they have something in common, so naturally they're gonna. It's so basic. Like you could have thrown anything at all in here to make this a little bit interesting. Like going with the classic Romeo and Juliet, or neither one of our sides understand what we're going. Are you kidding me right now? Oh, and by the way, if you thought I was just bringing up him being whipped as like, oh, a funny little internet joke, no. That's a plot point. Like Chief is trying to explain to everybody, no guys, seriously, I'm telling you, she's not like everybody else. It's not like what everybody else says, I promise. Why did we have to break down this grown-ass man, this 7-foot-tall man, into having problems that a 9th grader has? Like I get it. I get it from a writing perspective. That's it's a nice opportunity for a little bit of dichotomy, a little bit of irony. It's not compelling television for what we're expecting to see. Right now, watching a super soldier figure out the trials and tribulations of love was not on my bingo card for Halo. I want to be very clear, you could probably do this kind of crap with like another character that doesn't have like the reverence that the Chief does with the fan base, I guess, because technically if you're doing this to a new audience, you're making a new character, so it's something that they're going to be introduced to and learn to like, I guess. But if you're introducing something to an audience that a large portion of that audience already has expectations for, it can only backfire if you do something different. Because it's going to backfire either way. I need to stop getting off on tangents. I'm never going to get done with this. So yeah, the writers made him whipped so that they could have an excuse for McKee getting away and stealing the artifact. Yes, an unarmed, untrained, kidnapped at birth civilian managed to escape a military base with a highly guarded artifact. It's not like she just slipped out of the cracks. She was confronted multiple times. Still got away. Killed a few people, in fact. I mean, is the point of the show that you want the military to look stupid? Again, another unique decision. Oh, hey, at least Miranda put 2 and 2 together. You know, the one thing that she has to do aboard this spaceship, like the thing we see her do 90% of the time when she's on screen, research. She got it. She's a smart cookie. It takes her a second, but she gets it. Oh, but the words that came out of her mouth sound the same as words come out other mouth. Episode 9. Holy God, we're almost done. God help me. Now, you know what? He's got better shit to do. Okay, so just in my pure rage, I've been mixing up episodes 8 and 9. Please leave your hatred in the comments. But essentially, episode 8 and 9 are the finale of the season. Everything's coming to a head. In the meantime, they have figured out the code behind why they couldn't figure out where the Covenant secret base was. Something about kaleidoscoping. I don't know. I haven't messed with a kaleidoscope since I was like 9. And I also suck at math. While McKee was escaping, there was this big standoff between the Spartans. And not that what they weren't going through wasn't, traumatic. Like, they were all kind of figuring out, like, that they've been lied to this entire time. Oh my God, like, secrets coming out, tea being spilled. Oh my Jesus. But it feels like, I think at one point there were like 5 or 6 people standing around. None of them just remembering that they all knew there was a prisoner escaping. None of them, I'll go get it. Nobody. Or at least not until it's too late. Oh, yeah. Writer convenience. Oh, yeah, by the way, Chief took out his chip, and they showed us after that, a little while after that Kai was watching and took hers out as well. Riz and Vanek still have theirs in, though, right? So why is there any emotion in their side of this standoff? Did I miss? It's very possible I missed something, but So secret's finally out. Halsey's a war criminal. She manages to flee and gets captured off screen. I'm sure there's no specific reason for that. And now the Chief and his team know where the Covenant base is at. They are hyperspacing out and leading us to our big finale. So Silver Team arrives at the Aspero system, and they do a pretty good job of just neutralizing the threats and getting to the artifact until they realize that for some reason Cortana's scans didn't pick up like thousands of troops underneath. I thought the whole point of scans was that they could scan like, under things. Like, if there's a tree over me, it wouldn't stop the scan. Technology. During all of this, the artifact gets activated, which freezes up the Chief in one of those little halo vision thingies. And Kai, seeing McKee in a similar state, decides, I'll go ahead and take care of that.
I'm sorry, Tyler Murphy. It was an accident.
The Chief mourns for about 3.5 seconds. And everything's looking bad. Team is down. Sticky grenades and plasma shots just going everywhere. Everybody's just having a bad time. The Chief is like, hey, AI in my brain, you're way better because you're a computer. Why don't you take control and just kill everybody? And that brings us to the clip I showed in the beginning. And that clip is funny out of context. But if you actually have the context building up to it, the tension building up to, oh, well, you're the only one that can do this. You need to save the team and the artifact. Use my body is ready. All that build up. And she just commandeers the Pelican. And not only that, after she commandeers the Pelican and starts kicking ass, Silver Team just starts to get up. I mean, it's got to be within seconds of her taking over. Silver Team just starts to, I guess I'm feeling a little better now. Let's go kick some. It's like all the tension that you just built up. It's like the second you pulled the pin on that tension grenade, you're like, get it out of here. Get it out of here. I don't want any of that. Tension? Who needs tension? So yeah, they mop the floor with everybody. They get the artifact and they leave. All they needed was the Pelican. Cortana was moot. Remember how I said it was probably not a big deal that Halsey got arrested off camera? Probably should have mentioned the fact that she created seizure clones too, by the way. Nobody seems to remember except for one person. And not only that, but we got to give that person some slow-mo. We got to give them a flashback just to remind the audience, because those idiots don't remember anything from this show. You kidding me? Those morons? That's what they think of you. So yeah, she's escaped. The UNMC continues to be dunderheads. And apparently, nobody recognizes the faces of fugitives or war criminals. Halsey's just chilling in a park, like eyesight, chilling on a bench. The skyscraper in the distance isn't even small. She's right there. And that was season 1. You understand now why I needed a break before I did season 2? Why it took me so long to do this one in the first place? Like I said, I didn't want to make a comparison, but when you've watched shows like Better Call Saul, like The Boys, and like Fallout, and you compare it to this.
What is this? Turn it off that water, man. Who you think cleaned all this mess up?
You come from shows that have writing that gives you characters that are clearly informed by their own motivations, their own decisions they make, and that factors in to how the decisions they make affect other people, and then the chain keeps going, and then those people intermingle with other people. All the while you've got action going on sometimes. And then you pan over to this show.
This is a public restaurant.
It makes me feel like they thought you would be so invested in what they were saying that yes, this is all we need to do. No interesting shooting or dynamic camera shots. There's so many shots in this show where they do the dramatic pause or like the cut to black at a dramatic moment, and I just found myself sitting here like, is the episode over? There's such a disconnect between what they want us to feel and what I'm actually feeling watching it. And that should never be a thing, especially coming from somebody who has a fair amount of experience with this universe, with this lore, with these characters. And that brings me to the brief positive section we're going to have on this one. The big action set pieces. When you think Halo, you think over-the-top action. You think of all the crazy that the Chief has done, either in the games or if you've read them in the books. They pull off those to a T. In fact, there is one moment where he boards a Banshee and steers it into an enemy ship to save somebody. And that is just straight up some shit that the Chief would have done. They are few and far between with these action set pieces. And also, I know it may sound like I'm a huge nitpicker for canon, for things being in canon, but I'm also a big fan of people that find creative ways to break canon. Like, for instance, the introduction of Makee. Like, as much as I've complained about the fact that her character is pointless, you could have done something with that. You could have done something with a human empathizer with on the Covenant side. You very much could have done something interesting with that. Could have. We never really got to see, in the games anyway, we never really got to see a relationship between Miranda Keyes and her father, Captain Keyes, which is another interesting look into something we weren't necessarily shown in the games, which is an interesting angle I think they could have taken with a lot of stuff. There's a lot of Marines they could have shown the backstory of, or there's a lot of Spartans that they could have shown the backstory of. They did a little bit of that with Kai, but it really didn't seem like that was the focus of anything. And of course, all those positives lead me to probably my biggest negative with the show. And it's a weird one because it's not one that I think a lot of creators would have done. One that I expected to be disappointed on, but just with everything else compounding on top of it, doesn't make it any less good. Master Chief should not have been the main character of this show. I know. I know. What is he talking about? The Chief is the symbol. The Chief is what you think of when you think of Halo. The Chief is who the player plays as. So obviously it's who a lot of players are going to think of when they first think of the games. But here's the problem with that. When they did that with the Chief in the games, what they did was they basically made him as much of a blank slate as you can possibly make somebody, with sprinkling a little bit of flavor in there. It's because when you're playing a video game, you need a vessel, you need an avatar to carry you through this journey. You could have done that with the Chief. It basically could have been sci-fi Mad Max, where the main character is, yeah, I guess you can call him the main character, but everything just kind of happens around him. I don't think I'm the only fan of the Halo series to say that when we started getting a little bit iffy on the Halo story is when they started focusing a little bit too much on that guy. Like, I mean, the relationship between him and Cortana was always going to be something they dove into, but they even waited till the end of the third game to touch that one, and that's because a little weird. And then there's the one we don't dare speak of. Well, I know you're asking me, hey, well, if he's not the main character, who should have been? Thelvadam. Probably said that wrong. The Arbiter. This guy has one of the coolest stories to a character I have ever heard, or ever played. He led an army on a holy crusade to achieve this milestone for his covenant, for his people, for his religion, only to be thrown under the proverbial bus, spaceship, whatever you want to call it, whenever shit hit the fan and they needed somebody to blame. He still follows them. But along the way, he is enlightened by the experiences he has, the people he meets, and even death itself that tells him the ones who are leading you are not leading you the right way. And so what does he do? He teams up with the man he has thought was a demon this entire time and goes against his former prophets on his own crusade to bring them down. That's like the coolest shit I've ever heard in my life. Why would you not be chomping at the bit to tell that story? And I know what you're thinking, oh, well, he's an alien. They'd have to do like all CGI characters. Yeah, because, you know, that's never gotten over anywhere. But also, while we still have the blessed soul that is Keith David on this planet, for the love of God. I had to watch the guy take a nickel to the eye socket last summer, and I have not recovered yet. But in all seriousness, like, that's your guy. That's your guy. You need a compelling story to hook people in and make them want to tune in to episode 2, episode 3, season 2, season 3. That's some, like, long-term narrative threading you can do. This shouldn't be this difficult. That's part of the reason. It's part of the reason I get so infuriated with this. You had to take something that other people enjoyed just the way it was and would have happily handed you money for, and you threw it away. Why? Why would you do that? It irks me. It irks me to no end because Halo is dead. I'm sorry, guys, if there's any Halo fans out there that haven't come to that realization yet. Halo is dead. And the thing is, there was a brief window, very brief window, where it could have been revitalized. Now, again, this is another reason I'm glad I watched Fallout before I did this, because look at the Fallout community right now. I'm not 100% sure if Fallout 4 has been getting updates since it's been released, but I've seen like at least 3 in like the past month. And that's insane for a game that's been out almost a decade at this point. I've heard people talking about Fallout 76, which I haven't heard people talk about in a year, like over a year. Imagine what a lot of good PR a good TV show would have done for Halo. People that have never even probably tried the series out would have picked it up, because that's what's happening with Fallout. That's not what the point of this is. The point, let me make that perfectly clear. The point of this video is basically for me to vent these frustrations, for me to get this out, for me to communicate to somebody that might have a like-minded opinion, because opinions are important. Opinions are very, very important. Because I might hate this show, but somebody might love it. And you know what? That's amazing. That's awesome. Because it means we're all different individuals, different hobbies, different interests. But when you have the opportunity to bring a bunch of people together, with a TV show that has an IP behind it, that has so many people, not even just in the video game industry, but in TV and movies. Look at Rooster Teeth, for Christ's sake. I mean, don't look at it right now, but look at where they went. Look at what they got to because of that. So say I'm overreacting, say whatever you want to say, but I love Halo, and damn it, it didn't get a fair shot. So please, I still have to watch season 2. There's still a lot of things that I didn't complain about in this video because I'm like, you know what? Let's give them some time. But I don't think that time's going to work. Mostly because it's already passed and season 2 is already out and nobody's saying anything really that different. That might be one of the longest recording ones I've done, like, yet. I like it. I keep these notes for efficiency, damn it. I did not go through 10 hours of hell just to forget something. Going scorched earth, baby. I probably forgot something.